to Car Chronicles. I am your host, Jillian, and I am going to give you guys an IVF update. So I am on my way to my doctor's appointment. This is one of the last few doctor's appointments I am going to have before the big transfer. I'm not disclosing when the transfer will be. I prefer to keep that information to myself, but trust and believe, when I have the transfer and all of that, I will be documenting and I will share that with you guys eventually. So it's been a long couple of months. I haven't spoken with you guys since, I want to say, the end of May, and for good reasons. So what happened was, I believe my retrieval was on April 16th. I want to say it was April 16th. I can't quite remember, but we're going to say April 16th. And my doctor's office put me on birth control just until we got back the genetic test results for our 12 beautiful embryos. Well, I started to experience some pain in the back of my calf. So I noticed the pain, I want to say it was May 19th. May 19th, I started to notice the pain. But I thought I just pulled a muscle, you know, I didn't think much of it. Well, then that Saturday, I noticed the pain shifted. It went from being in the back of my calf to being on the inner left side of my calf. And this is on my right leg. So, you know, I continued to stretch. Still didn't think much of it because I did work out a couple days before that. So I'm like, I really must have hurt myself in the gym. Okay, that Sunday, it moved from being on the inner left side of my calf to being on the outer right side of my calf. And I'm like, this is so weird. The pain is literally traveling. So I disclosed this information to my mom, and she was like, you know what? You need to go to urgent care. You need to go have them look at your leg because it could be a blood clot. And I'm like, oh, no. I don't think it's a blood clot. I just think I pulled a muscle. Well, I continued to stretch my leg, and I went to work that Monday, and I was limping. I was really legit limping. So I said, you know what? I can't take this anymore. If it still feels the same by Tuesday morning, I'm going to urgent care. I'll call in. Well, guess what? Tuesday morning came and I couldn't even walk. I had been elevating my leg, but when I woke up Tuesday morning, my leg was so swollen. It was huge. And then I couldn't even put pressure on it. I couldn't stand. My husband, thankfully, he was getting ready for work, but he hadn't left yet. So he helped me get dressed, and we headed to the urgent care. As soon as the doctor saw me and she saw my leg, she can tell that it had like a reddish hue to it. So she could tell that it was really swollen. They didn't have the machinery to check my leg, but the signs that she was seeing, she was like, I think you have a blood clot. You need to go to the emergency room. So they referred me to the emergency room, and it was that. When they did the scan, they saw that I had a deep vein blood clot. I cried and I cried and I cried because I knew that this was going to put a pause in my IVF journey. And I didn't know how to take that because at that time, we had been waiting for our genetic test results it was going on 5 weeks. And I was wondering what was taking so long because they told us 4 weeks, at least 4 weeks. And we didn't have any word from anybody. We just was waiting for a phone call. Well, what my embryo transfer would have been scheduled for like the end of June, beginning of July, something like that. Well, the same day that I was leaving the emergency room after just finding out that I had a blood clot in my leg, I got a phone call, and it was the geneticist calling to basically say that they had our genetic results and that they were waiting for us to pay so they can send the results to us. And I'm like, why nobody called? She was like, oh, well, we sent the email. I don't check my email, y'all. I don't check my email. And, you know, if it went on that long, we should have got a phone call. And I was under the impression that our insurance was paying for the genetic testing. I thought that was all included. So, you know, if you are going through insurance to pay for your genetic testing or just pay for your IVF fertility treatment at all, make sure you do your research to figure out what they're going to cover and what they're not going to cover, because they did not cover the genetic testing. It's a private company, so it's all self-pay for that. But anyway, so they had the test results, and I was upset because it's like, well, if that was the case, I would have been paid, and I probably wouldn't have been on the birth control so long, which triggered the blood clot. But who's to say that I wouldn't have gotten the blood clot even if I wasn't on it as long? But, you know, they traced the blood clot to me being on birth control, from what I understand, because I had to go see a hematologist, and they did some blood work, and they had determined that it was a freak accident, meaning that the birth control is what triggered the blood clot. Because I mean, I've never had this happen to me before, and I've been on birth control before, but it was a different brand. And I want to say that this particular brand was called Crescell. But anyway, so I was put on blood thinners, 100 milligrams, and I had to give myself 2 shots per day. I was bruised, black and blue. I had knots in my stomach from the shots. It was ridiculous. It was just a long summer. I'm still giving myself blood thinner shots. They said I don't have to be on them for the rest of my life, but I will have to be on it for the full term of my pregnancy. So that sucks. I'm going to be constantly poking myself. I think I've kind of gotten used to it, but it's not what, you know, it's not something that I enjoy doing. Well, after the summertime, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't fly nowhere, of course. I was grounded. So I just stayed in my house. I stayed to myself. I was in my feelings. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to do anything because I couldn't even walk for long periods of time. I couldn't stand for long periods of time. My husband and I went on a road trip, and we went to Colorado, and they have high altitude out there, so it was hard for me to breathe. It was just an unpleasant time. I'm doing much better now. I'm in a better headspace. I started my fertility treatment again in August 21st is when I had my first appointment to go back and get the ball moving again. So like I said, the transfer is close, and I'm very excited about that. Oh, so my embryos, once we got the genetic testing, it turns out, so we have, if you didn't see my previous video, we had 21 to start with, and those 20, we had 21 follicles. There were 16 out of the 21 that were mature. Out of the 16, 12 of those embryos fertilized. I used ICSI. That's when they insert the sperm into the egg manually. It has a higher percentage, a higher rate of success. So we fertilized 12 embryos, and out of the 12 we had 10 that were genetically normal. One of my embryos had minus 18 chromosomes, and the other one had positive 16 chromosomes. So if they would have implanted those, they would have ended up in a miscarriage. So I do recommend getting the genetic testing. I know the doctors, they recommend it. My doctor recommended it, but he said that because we were young, that it wasn't necessary. And I'm the kind of person, I don't want to have to go through heartache. So I'd rather just front the bill, get the best of the best, so there's no regrets. And that's what we did. So we did the genetic testing, and it turns out that we had 2 that were abnormal. So, and then, you know, they tell you the genders of your embryos and everything like that, and they have them numbered. My number 1 on the number 1 embryo was abnormal. So if they would have implanted that, then it would have ended up in a miscarriage. So that's very, you know, that's crazy to think of. I had, as far as like gender wise, I have 5 girls and 5 boys. I'm very excited about that. The 2 that were abnormal, 1 boy, 1 girl, which is crazy. So technically I had 6 boys and 6 girls to start out with, an even split. I am pulling up to my doctor's office now for my I have to do another ultrasound and blood work to make sure my levels are where they're supposed to be for our upcoming transfer. Guys, I tried to record this video like 4 times already, and every time I try to record it, I've never been able to finish because someone has either called me or I had to stop recording because I had something to do or whatever the case may be. But I'm glad I'm finally able to sit and, or drive, but you know, have this, give this update because it was much needed. And I hate leaving people on a cliffhanger because I have so many people who are, you know, following the journey and who are, you know, they have questions about the process, and I want to be able to, you know, give some insight because I found it was very helpful to see videos online of women like me going through infertility issues and how they went about battling their infertility. I've been dealing with infertility for years, and you know, it never gets easy, but it's good to hear the positive come out of the negative, you know. But I will keep you guys updated, and I'll talk to you again real soon.